Good morning, I'm Sunetra Choudhury, political editor of the Hindustan Times, bringing you all that you need to know about COVID-19 on Tuesday, June 23rd. First up, a look at the numbers. In just the last 24 hours, there have been 13,479 new cases. The total number of dead from the coronavirus in India stands at 14,013, which brings us to our top story, how the pandemic across the world is still accelerating. It's something that the WHO has already flagged. In fact, just on Sunday, the number of new cases emerging from across the world were 183,000. Another indicator is that it took 5 months from January till May for the pandemic to infect 4.5 million people. But for the next 4.5 million, it just took 5 weeks. So just an instance of how it is accelerating. And of course, America is still the one which is the most infected, at having 25% of the total number of infected coronavirus cases. Which brings us to the situation here in India, and Delhi, the capital, seems to be really badly hit as well, which is why authorities, the National Center for Disease Control, has decided it is going to start antibody tests randomly across all the districts. From the 27th, they are going to test 20,000 people in order to get an assessment about how many people there are in the city that without testing had the coronavirus and have now recovered and now have the antibodies for it. This gives some indication of the general spread of the disease. Of course, if we look at some silver lining, then it is that from not producing any PPEs, that's a protective covering that's worn by health workers, is India now producing a surplus. Hindustan Times has learned that the government has now cleared the export of about 5 million PPEs. On Monday, they have already cleared the export of face masks, but the Textile Ministry has been pushing for the export of PPEs because they say that there is now a surplus in the manufacture of the PPEs, which was started as the pandemic started rising here in India. So the Foreign Trade Department may be removing the restrictions that are there for export in order to help the sector, which has been struggling since the economy has been hit. The other story that we have in Hindustan Times is the certificate which was planned by the central government to be given to anyone who has recovered from the coronavirus. They were supposed to get certificates saying that they pose no longer a threat to the community. However, doctors are a little wary about giving such certificates because they say they don't want to give out these certificates without conducting a test. According to the new guidelines, they no longer need to conduct a coronavirus test before releasing people from the hospital. In some cases, people are only being monitored for a couple of days, and if they have mild symptoms, they're sent home and asked to recover there. In other cases, even when they fully recover, doctors say that they're not really sure because it's a novel coronavirus. They don't know everything about it yet, whether that person has the risk of being reinfected or not. It's something that the WHO had also flagged earlier in April about immunity certificates. They're saying just because someone has been infected doesn't mean they won't get infected again. And so this entire concept of getting a certificate at having beaten coronavirus is prompting doctors to raise some red flags. And finally, a cautionary tale emerging from the Adria Tour, whose final got cancelled after 2 top players and organizer Novak Djokovic's own coach tested positive. At the tournament, there were spectators and a lot of social distancing norms were thrown away as players were seen to be hugging each other after matches and also going out in the evenings. A lot of spectators over there. And so these players testing positive have now damaged Djokovic's own reputation. A lot of players now asking why it is that social distancing norms weren't adhered to. So those were the top stories. You can read more about them on hindustantimes.com. We'll be back again tomorrow.